Let's discuss Sullivan's work on her evaluation, on her scrutinizing, on her trying to gauge the theory of cultural capital that was put forward by Pierre Bourdieu. Now, about Bourdieu, the French sociologist, he believed that an individual's capital plays a very important role in terms of influencing his or her educational attainment. There were different types of capitals that Bourdieu mentioned. Amongst these, number one, if we talk about economic capital. Number two, if you talk about symbolic capital. Number three, social capital. Number four, cultural capital. Economic capital, of course, has to do with the money, the resources, your wealth, your income. Symbolic capital has to do with the royalty you have, with the entitlement an individual has. Social capital has to do with the amount of networking, your friends, your acquaintances, or the people that you might know, them being helpful towards your educational success. Number four, if you talk about cultural capital had to do with the mannerism, the taste, and the exposure that an individual receives. Now, if you talk about Bourdieu, Bourdieu believed that the cultural capital plays the most crucial role in terms of influencing an individual's educational attainment. Now, this was a basic idea on what Bourdieu believed in. Let's talk about Sullivan tried testing what Bourdieu claimed. Now, Sullivan did this in the early 2000s. Sullivan collected data through questionnaires. Questionnaires are an example of a self-report measure. When you talk about collecting data through questionnaires, you can never be sure, you can never be certain that the information you've received is actually based on truth or reality. Now, this research that Sullivan conducted, in this research, she collected data from 465 students. These 465 students, they were 16-year-old students who were about to appear for their GCSE examinations. She collected this data from students from 4 different schools. Now, what were the factors that she was working on? Number one, she tried collecting information on the children's social class. Now, when she tried collecting information on a particular child's social class, she did this through parental occupation. Now, in cases where both the parents were working, or if you're talking about, in this case, we're talking about a dual income family, she chose the occupation or the income of individual who was of the spouse that was earning more, the highly paid job individual spouse, right? One. Number two, she collected data on parental cultural capital. Number three, she collected data on students' cultural capital. There are three elements we're talking about. Number one, the child's social class. Number two, the child's parental, number two, the parents' cultural capital. Number three, the students' cultural capital. Now, Sullivan measured the cultural capital of parents through their educational qualification. She measured the cultural capital of students through different ways, through different elements. She chose reading as one factor. Number two, when I talk about book reading, I'm talking about the types of books that a child or a student reads. Number two, the type of television programs that the child was watching. Number three, the music, the sort of music, the type of music the child was listening to. Number four, the musical instrument that the child would play. And number five, if the child did attend any art galleries, any theater, so on and so forth. So there are three elements that we catering to. Number one, this. Number two, this. And the third one being the student's cultural capital. Taking this a little further, what she was trying to figure out over here was the extent to which these factors, if they do, right, these factors, if they do, affect the GCSE results of a particular student. What Sullivan concluded was, what she found out was that factors such as factors related to music, factors related to students attending art galleries or theaters did not have a significant effect. However, the factors that did matter were the type of books the student would read and the television programs. Now, students who were students who used to watch intellectual television programs and students who would read a wide variety of books, according to Sullivan, these students eventually ended up performing better when it came to the GCSE results. She found a very strong correlation between the parents' cultural capital and the students' cultural capital. Now, if we conclude this study that was conducted by Sullivan, what she concluded was that cultural capital without any doubt played a very important role in terms of the educational attainment of pupil. But at the same time, we need to be cautious, we need to be careful not to believe that it is cultural capital alone that influences a student's educational attainment or education qualification. Along with the cultural capital, parental interest, according to Sullivan, played an important role. Along with parental interest, the parent's economic situation. Was the parent able to afford for it, right? So, in a nutshell, according to Sullivan, it is not just your cultural capital. Along with your cultural capital, there are other factors such as parental interest and parents' economic situation. They also played an important role in terms of determining a child's educational success or failure. Now, this was a quick little summary on the work that was done by Sullivan. Now, let's just discuss how we could put this to use. Now, if we have a look at this question that we had in March 2021, the question over here reads, evaluate the view that education systems are a barrier to social mobility, right? A 26 marker evaluative essay question. The question reads, evaluate the view that education systems are a barrier to social mobility. Now, if you receive a question of this nature or this sort, remember when you're talking about the education system playing the role of a barrier, you could use this point against. I hope you're able to see this. This looks tiny over here, but you could use Sullivan's research in support of this argument. If I show you another question over here, in May 2021, in May 2021, there was this another question that says, evaluate the view that intelligence is the main factor influencing education attainment. Now, in a question of this nature or this sort, you could use Sullivan's example against, or Sullivan's work against this particular view. And if you have a look at this, I'll have to squeeze this down. This is where you see it, right? Sullivan could be used as an argument, as a key thinker against the argument that intelligence plays the most crucial role in terms of determining an individual's education attainment. Now, over here, instead of, if you receive a question that says gender plays the most important role, if you're getting a question that says your material factors play the most crucial role, if you're getting a question that says your ethnicity plays the most crucial role, you could always put Sullivan's research to use over here. Another question, if I may show, this question that we had in October, November 2021, the question over here is an 8-mark question. And the question reads, explain 2 ways cultural capital benefits middle class pupils. Now, over here, the point that is, you're getting the first mark for identifying, the second mark for explaining, the third mark for for selecting relevant sociological material, and the fourth mark to explain how the relevant sociological material you've chosen can actually does actually go in line with the question. Now, if you read the question again, the question reads, explain 2 ways in which cultural capital benefits middle class pupils. So you could always use Sullivan's example over here. Let me just highlight this and then read it out for you. You could say, here you go. So you could say, knowledge and skills associated with middle class are rewarded by the curriculum. For instance, middle class students are more likely to read and watch documentaries, which helps with subjects like English and history. And then you could provide relevant sociological material over here by writing down about Sullivan. And what you could write could be, Sullivan found that students who read widely and watched documentaries performed better in the education system, again through the GSC examination results. Now, this is what I tried explaining you a couple of minutes ago. We have another question over here that we had in May, June 2024, and the question over here reads, evaluate the view that education enables working class children to achieve social mobility. The education system enables working class children to achieve social mobility. Over here, in a question of this sort of nature, you could use Sullivan's reference against this view. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.